Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching The Political Vigilante. Come on, the truth rising up somewhere in the outskirts of Gotham City beneath Wayne Manor comes the Political Vigilante. Boy, this pulling Joe Biden to the left, it's really working, right? Like we're just we got to get Trump out of there, and then we'll pull Joe Biden and the Democrats to the left, right? That's why the Senate, controlled by the Democrats, just increased its war budget. What? Oh, this doesn't seem like this is from Drop the MIC, Military Industrial Complex. Breaking: the U.S. Senate votes to add $25 billion to the $743 billion defense budget. This will now make us outspend the next, I think, 15 or more countries combined. It's literally, that's how many countries we're outspending. Literally, now with this, before the 25 billion, if we were to cut this 743 in half, we would still be outspending China by almost $200 billion. That's with cutting this budget in half. We would still be outspending China, the next closest country's military spending. We would still outspend. Do you understand what that means? This is the big boy. Just pull Joe Biden to the left. And I'm sure there's some vote any blue will do people going to be, but first it was, remember, don't be too critical of Joe Biden. Wait till November. And then after he's elected, wait till he's sworn in. And then after he's sworn in, wait till his first 100 days. Well, those have come and gone. But wait till the midterms. And then when the midterms, it'll be like, no, wait till 2024. There's always this mythical day way off in the future when we can actually hold the Democratic Party accountable. Someday, not today, but way off in the future. I've heard this for 30 years. I voted Libertarian in 1996 because I was like, I think I voted for Jerry Brown in the Democratic primary in 92. And then I was like, all right. And I did that thing. I was very young and I said, all right, well, I'll vote for, I don't really like Bill Clinton. He seems too corrupt to me, too corporate, but I'll vote for Bill Clinton because, man, we've had 12 years of Reagan and Bush. So I'll got to vote somebody else. All right. And I did that. And then after 4 years of watching Bill Clinton, I watched the 94 crime bill get passed. I watched him do all this stuff that was like, I remember an older friend of mine was like, he's a Republican. I don't know who's anyone's joke. He's a Republican. Bill Clinton's a Republican. This comedy writer. And I was like, you know what? I'm voting third party. And I don't consider myself a libertarian anymore. There's a lot about libertarians that I don't necessarily agree with, but I was like, I'm voting third party. And everyone was like, Graham, you're going to let Bob Dole win. I was told that in 1996. We're going to let, you're helping Bob Dole. I was told that in 1996. So you'll forgive me if I laughed when I voted for Jill Stein in 2016 and wrote in Jesse Ventura in 2020. You'll forgive me if I was laughing. But Graham, you're helping. Oh, let's look at this map. Oh, wealth and equity, 1962 to 2014. Look at it. That's how big it was in 1962. It got closer in the 70s and early 80s. Then Reagan, yay. Here's Reaganomics. That's what Reaganomics looks like. And then this is Bill Clinton and George Bush and Barack Obama. Look at him. Look at it. Look at that. This is in the middle of Obama's second term. So this is 4 or 5 years, 6 years after the financial crash really took hold in 2009, 2010. It was the end of 08. September of 08 was when it happened, but it really started to take shape in 2000. And so that's wow. The record profits when America was losing their homes. But we got money for war. We got money for war. We got money for war. Unbelievable. Look at this. 92. Oh, wow. This starts to widen when Bill Clinton gets into office. It's like the 80s. It's right there. Then Reagan, then Bush, then look at that. There's no difference. That's why. Oh, by the way, I'm sure this is a wacky coincidence. Goldman Sachs has been in every presidential cabinet since Reagan. Look what this brings, letting Wall Street in everyone's cabinet. Oh, no difference between these political parties. Joe Biden has increased his budget for ICE. He is now spending more money than Trump is on ICE. Separating families at the border, putting kids in cages. I'm sorry, facilities sounds so much nicer. I don't feel bad when kids are in facilities and AOC's there going, yay, we did it. This is Biden. This is pulling Biden to the left. Pentagon carries out first airstrike in Somalia under Biden. One of the poorest countries in the world. We're bombing. Why are we bombing Somalia? What does Somalia have to? Why are we there? What does this have to do with? What? Hey, did Somalia create this? Is Somalia the reason why the wealth have so much money and all the Somalians took all the wealth away from Americans? And is that why we're bombing them? No, Somalia is another poor country, just like Yemen. And this line, part of this line going up, part of this is the money, not just from the military industrial complex, but the oil lobbies, offshore banking, making pharmaceuticals in cheap country, products in cheap countries, shipping American jobs overseas because we want to employ, so we get slave labor in third world countries, and Americans have to go get poor. See this? Did Somalia poison the water in Flint, Michigan? No? Was it the Somalian police that killed George Floyd? Oh, it wasn't. But it was remember when all those Somalians put all those black people behind bars when the Somalia was attorney general of the state of California? Oh no, that was Kamala Harris. Weird. See, there's no difference. There's no difference. White president, black president, female vice president. It doesn't matter. Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. You're getting screwed. Oh, but Biden, we have been really pulling him to the left. That's why he's bombed Syria twice. Man, we need more money to bomb poor people. So we've talked about all this before, all this money we're spending, an extra $25 billion that could be going for American people. There's people starving in the streets. People are facing eviction now. The moratoriums on evictions and foreclosures are ending. Unemployment is running out on most people, most states. What are we supposed to do? But this isn't a new, like, hey, we shouldn't be spending so much money on war. Here's Eisenhower.
By the time Eisenhower is president, there is a huge...
Hold on. Sorry. Hoo. All right.
By the time Eisenhower is president, there is a huge new flow of cash into defense industries.
He was the first to acknowledge.
Okay, there we go. All right, Kate, can you just verify that you can hear this in the chat?
By the time Eisenhower is president, there is a huge new flow of cash into defense industries.
He was the first to acknowledge that a permanent military establishment would be required during this period. But then
Yes, you can
unless
hear it. Okay,
we
great.
could find some kind of breakthrough, that in fact,
Okay. So we've been talking about this before. We've talked about this for a while, like, especially we're in the middle of a pandemic, people have lost their jobs, people are waiting in line for food, but this isn't new. This conversation of every time we spend money on war, we're taking money away from American people. Eisenhower talked about this.
By the time Eisenhower is president, there is a huge new flow of cash into defense industries.
he was the first to acknowledge that a permanent military establishment would be required during this period. But then unless we could find some kind of breakthrough, that in fact it would end up creating a terrible cost.
The cost of one modern heavy bomber is this: a modern brick school in more than 30 cities.
That's back in the 50s. One bomber is a brick school in more than 30 cities. That's $1950. So what is this 25 billion? On top of the already egregiously bloated 743 billion. Right? Anyone's like, we got to have defense. Yeah, again, we could cut our budget in half and still outspend China by $200 billion. We'd be fine.
It has 2 electric power plants, each serving a town of 60,000 population. It has 2 fine, fully equipped hospitals.
We pay for a single fighter plane with 500,000 bushels of wheat.
We pay for a single destroyer with new homes that could have housed more than 8,000 people.
Yeah. This homeless problem that was already bad before the pandemic is now even worse in the last year and a half.
This is not a way of life at all, in any true sense. Under the cloud of threatening war, it is humanity hanging from a cross of iron.
My father, as president, had strong guiding principles. He used to say, modern weapons take food from the hungry and shelter from the homeless. And so he was fighting with the Pentagon all the time for asking for too much and Congress for giving it to him.
I don't believe we should pay 1 cent for defense more than we have to.
Well, Eisenhower saw us starting to build program after program that was just out of control. And his own ability to shape national security policy was being hemmed in by these forces he couldn't control. And he was the president.
On at least one occasion, Eisenhower was heard to say by those in the room, God help this country when somebody sits at this desk who doesn't know as much about the military as I do.
JFK understood the military. He fought in World War II. LBJ didn't. Nixon didn't. Ford didn't. Carter didn't. Reagan didn't. George H.W. Bush was the head of the CIA. Clinton didn't. Bush didn't. Obama didn't. Trump didn't. Biden doesn't.
My fellow Americans, this evening I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell, and to share a few final thoughts with you, my countrymen. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists, and will persist.
You have to realize this is one of the great presidents, great military leaders on his way out the door. At the end of his second term, he says, by the way, watch out for the military-industrial complex.
People know that he invented the phrase military-industrial complex, but very rarely do you see the whole thing and realize how utterly strident his warning was. I think it's one of the most profound statements ever made by an American president.
We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
And again, these are 1950s dollars, and 3.5 million people worked in the 50s. Now it's so this increase. And by the way, the Senate controlled by the Democrats, as is the Congress. So where's the pulling to the left again? We listen to all this nonsense. Boy, this will help working families. The last stimulus bill we heard. How? A one-time tax credit? We don't even have $15 an hour minimum wage, which is still not enough for people to live on. We could have, Joe Biden could have given us Medicare for all. He could have done student debt forgiveness. He didn't do it. But we're spending more money on war. Wall Street got a big bailout. Well, look at this. Rising rents threaten to prop up inflation. This is in the New York Times. Officials of the Federal Reserve and White House thought fast price gains would pass. Rent increases could make it a slow fade. Oh, so everyone got the stimulus money and we're put all this money back into the economy and everyone's traveling and we're opening it back up again. But if your rents are so high, your dollar isn't worth as much. The $1,200 stimulus you got a year ago is worth less now. If you would have taken that $1,200 and bought Bitcoin, it'd be worth $3-4 grand. That's with the Bitcoin coming down in the last month. Okay. U.S. food banks brace for demand as Republicans and unemployment benefits. Now, this is in The Guardian, so they're trying to blame just the Republicans. The Republicans are awful. They're awful sacks of shit, just like the Democrats, though. Come on. 19.3 million adults said in late May that their households didn't get enough food to eat, while several states have started to cut benefits. But let's go to open. Well, how is this able to happen? The country's starving. People have lost their job. Industry's been wiped out. I can tell you, Ron Placone and I, we have our tour coming up. I'd say 20 to 30% of the venues we were doing business with before the pandemic are gone. They shut their doors. They're out of business. They're gone. But we got more money for war. We can't have free health care in the richest country in the history of the world that outspends the next, 15 countries combined now. But we got money to bomb Somalia. We got money to bomb Syria and Iraq. But we can't feed our own citizens. So how is this able to happen? Well, I went to opensecrets.org, which is a great website. So all campaign donations are monitored by the Federal Elections Commission. So they're a matter of public record. The media won't talk about it. The two parties aren't going to talk about it. They're just going to give you lip service and sound bites and hope that enough of you are dumb enough to not do the digging. Well, you're smart enough to come to this show. So I just went into, go yourself, opensecrets.org. Go do your own research. And type in top contributors, defense industry's top contributions to federal candidates, 2020 election cycle. So the Republicans got a little bit more. We're talking about like 52-48. I mean, it's pretty fair. They were like kind of banking, maybe Trump's going to win. We don't know. Maybe we'll give almost 50% to the Democrats. So if they win, great. We'll just move this a couple clicks over here to help Biden get reelected, whatever. Individuals, soft money, and PACs. Now, this is the key thing with individuals. What they've done to try to get around this is like the CEO of big companies. Look, the defense industry does this, the private prisons, the pharmaceutical companies, fossil fuels, all on down the line. So the CEO will donate. Well, I'm just donating 10 grand to someone's campaign. I'm just an individual citizen. you're a it's defense contractor money. So they at least mark it as individual on this. Total contributions was $46 million just in 2020. These are the top 10 companies. They give you the whole 20 on the list. The top 10, Lockheed Martin, 47% Democrat, 52%. Look at this, Republican. 6 million. Raytheon. 54% of the Democrat. This is the liberal warmongers. These are the liberal warmongers because they buy a bunch of ad time on MSNBC. So they're the good warmongers. By the way, female CEO, female CEO, female CEO, female CEO. Northrop Grumman, 55% Democrat. Wow. These guys probably learned that shit, man. We backed Obama and now Biden, Obama's VP is in there. We might as well go heavy on the Dems because we know Joe Baby's going to keep the bombs rolling. I mean, they made out like bandits. Everybody conventional thinking, oh, the Democrats aren't big on war. Yeah, they are. Yes. 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 When you put a black president in there with a Muslim name, he'll bomb the shit out of people for you. Think of all the people that are dying as a result of this. Are going to, think of this. Remember now, Obama and Vice President Biden, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and then Secretary of State John Kerry dropped more bombs than Bush. So they're well aware of this. Look at this. General Atomics, okay, they give 68-30, but most of them, Colsa Corp, they don't give much to the Dems. Booz Allen Hamilton, but look at this. There's still many, the 2, 3, 4, and 5, all more Democrats than Republicans. But it's so different now that Joe Biden's in there. Look at that. This is just the top 10. There's 10 more. So if you were dancing in the streets for Joe Biden and Kamala, these folks are going to profit from more war. So when you think you're going to pull Joe Biden to the left, you're not, because you don't have more money than this. This is why giving the Democrats your vote, no matter what, is pointless because they don't care. They're just like, haha, you're a lefty. You got nowhere else to go. I voted for Bernie in the primary, but I'm still voting for Biden because Trump was bad. Okay. They don't care. These folks are guaranteeing that Joe Biden is going to keep us in all of these wars. By the way, you care about the environment? Are you a liberal that cares about the environment? Number one contributor, United States military, that is funded by these folks. Hey, who's Joe Biden's Secretary of Defense? He's a black man, first ever black man. Oh, he was on Raytheon's board of directors who gave 54% to Democrats, 5.7 million. This is why I want you to realize, you think there's a difference between these two parties? I showed you. It's like 51, 4, 48, it's almost even. But the top 5, 4 out of the top 5 all go heavy on the Democrats. So anytime somebody tells you, oh, we need to set, this is ridiculous, and tell them, and if anybody, I don't care what their political affiliation is, complains, why don't we have better school? Why aren't the roads this? Anybody, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, anytime anyone makes a complaint, why don't we have more fill in the blank? Tell them this is why. The Senate, controlled by the Democrats, controlled by the Democrats, money, follow the money, connect the dots, find the truth. That's what I tell you on the show. Look this up yourself. You're a big Republican or big Democrat, and you don't like what I'm saying? Go look this up yourself. This is why we have war. This is why we're outspending. And when you drive around your city, and if you live in any city in America, you're going to see two glaring things. I guarantee it. Boarded up businesses and homeless people. People living in their cars, people living in the parks, sleeping in tents. You're going to see those two things way more than you did before the pandemic. And I want you to think of this and the fact we're increasing the war and we're bombing poor people in Somalia and the Middle East who didn't do shit to us. The boarded up businesses, Somalians and Syrians didn't do that to you. The ruling class, the 1% did that to you. Did you lose your job during this? Blame Wall Street. Blame all the billionaires and big corporations that have had record profits. I still haven't gotten my tax refund this year. And I find out at the website, the IRS website, when I got a notice in the mail, it's $600 less my refund because I got the $600 stimulus. No, you give me both because that's what these assholes get. They get both. They get the tax refund and the stimulus. I want both. Why do I get $600 less? But we got money to bomb. And do you think the people of Somalia or Syria or any of these poor countries were either bombing or sanctioning like Iran and Venezuela? Do you think they give a shit about the lesser of two evils? You think they give a shit about, oh, now they're bombed by Joe Biden and Kamala, the first female black, right? Do you think they give a shit about who bombed them, who sanctioned them? Because they were sanctioned by Trump and bombed by Trump. They were sanctioned and bombed by Obama, and they were sanctioned and bombed by George W. Bush. So while these people in these two utterly corrupt parties spend your money, they cut it. Did you have kids in a school and they cut some lunch or music program or they cut the sports? Did they cut the funding to one of those things? We got money for war. Did your taxes go up? This is why your taxes went up. This is why. The war machine is why your taxes went up. Never forget these numbers, ever. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. That's what I tell you on this show. That's why you watch the show. Wake up. The Democrats are horrible. So are the Republicans. These parties don't care about any one of you. They don't care. Trump didn't give a shit about you. Joe Biden didn't give a shit about you. Obama didn't give a shit about you. Hillary didn't give a shit. Kamala didn't give a shit. Mike Pence doesn't give a shit. None of them care about you. George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, do you think those guys gave a shit? None of them care about you. None of them. None of them. None of them. So follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth, and shave your knuckles for justice. Boom. Hey, everybody, it's Graham Elwood. We are going on the road, Ron Placone and I, in September and October. Check GrahamElwood.com for tour dates, probably coming to a city near you. A lot of these shows have sold out in the past. We haven't been on the road in a year and a half because of the pandemic. Come out and join us. The post-pandemic comedy tour. Go to GrahamElwood.com for tickets. New cities being announced every day. Join us. And support what we do at patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. Blockchain cryptocurrency platform. Thank you. You're making Gotham great again.